Hello and welcome back to English Fun Academy. And today we have a brand new English lesson for you. And these are questions, present simple questions with WH, WH questions, and questions also with how. So these are present simple WH questions and questions with how, like how often, and how much. Okay, so let's begin with who. Who do I go? Who do I go with? Who do I go to see? Something like that. Like you go to see the principal, you go to see the boss. Uh, what do you like? What do you like? I like basketball. I like football. When does he study? When does he study? So he studies in the evening. This is always a little bit confusing when you use the answers are always a bit confusing when you use he, she, it. So for example, when does he study? You don't say he study in the evening, you say he studies. So the verb actually changes in the answer. So again, when does he study? He studies in the evening. Okay? Where does she live? Where does she live? She lives, so again, the verb changes. Where does she live? So this has no S. Where does she live? And then in the answer, you say she lives in London or something, okay? So again, the verb changes in the answer. You have to add S to the verb, or ES, okay? Why does it eat? Why does it eat that, for example? Why does it eat, meat? Why does it eat fish? It eats fish because it likes it, okay? If you're talking about an animal or something. Why does it eat fish? Why does it eat meat? It eats fish, it eats meat because it likes it, okay? So here in the question, you do not add S or ES to the verb. But when you answer, you add S or ES to the verb to provide the correct answer, okay? All right, so let's go down to you, we, they in the plural. These ones are in the singular. I, you, he, she, it are all singular. And then if we go to you, we, and they, why do you have so many books? Why do you have so many books? I have so many books because I like to read. Okay? Why do we live in Hawaii? Why do we live in Hawaii? We live in Hawaii because it is beautiful. So that's an appropriate response to that. How do they? How do they live? How do they live? For example, if you're asking someone how they live, or maybe if you're asking someone how a particular species of animal lives, how do they live? They live by hunting. They live by farming, something like that. How often do we work? How often? How often do we work? We work every day, or we work Monday through Friday. How often do we work? We work every day, or we work, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Saturday, whatever the case may be. How much do you like, basketball? How much do you, or excuse me, how much do they like basketball? They like basketball a lot. They like basketball a lot. Or, how much do you, how much do you have? How much do you have? I have a lot. I have a lot. Okay, a lot of something. Okay. So again, these are questions in the present simple tense with WH words: who, what, when, where, why, and also questions with how, how do, how does, how do. how often, how much, okay? And again, the answers can vary, but they're pretty straightforward. And here are some examples. Examples down here that I wrote. When do you study? So when do you study? You know, I study in the morning or I study in the evening, okay? How often does he run? How often does he run? He runs every day. He runs every morning, okay? Where does your mother live? Where does your mother live? My mother lives in Chicago, or my mother lives in Los Angeles, or something like that, okay? Why do you think about that? Why do you think about that? I think about that because it's important. I think about that because it's important, okay? Who do they like? Who do they like? They like the Boston Red Sox or something like that. For example, if you're talking about sports teams, or they like, you know, Manchester United or something like that. If you're in the UK, who do they like? You know, they like the Red Sox. They like the Yankees or something like that. Okay. So again, these questions. The key thing to remember here, the one thing that is particularly confusing that I mentioned before, is when you're using he, she, it. Again, it changes to does. Okay, who does he like? What does he do? Or when does she study? Why does it have, you know, so many bones or something like that? If you're talking about a dog, you change it to does, and just remember you do not add s or es to the verb. That's very important. So don't say where does he lives, okay? Or why does she studies, okay? I understand that if it's not a question, then you add s or es, like he lives in Chicago, or she studies in the evening. But if it's a question and you have does, you use does, then you do not add s or es to the verb here. But you do add it in the answer, okay? So if you say, where does he live? Then you have to answer by saying, he lives in Chicago, okay? You know, when does she study? She studies in the morning, okay? So you do not add s or es to the verb in the question, but you have to add s or es or change the y to I and add es, for example, as in studies, okay? So just remember, he, she, it is a little challenging, both in the fact that it changes to does. You use does in the question instead of do here. And then when you answer the question, then you do add s or es or change the y to I and add es in the answer. Okay, so that's the key. One of the key things to remember about questions in the present simple, in the present simple tense. So I hope that's clear. And, you know, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. And I hope that's pretty clear. It is a little bit challenging, mainly because the answer in the answer, when you're answering, you know, with he, she, it, you do have to change the verb in the answer. So that's one of the major challenges with this. But I hope that's quite clear, and I hope that it's not too challenging to pick that up. But anyway, so that's English. So there are some challenges to it, as there are to every language. But thank you very much for joining me, and I really appreciate your patience and your time.